Before we get to the likes of the Galaxy-class, or the Ambassador-class, or even the legendary Constitution-class, we need to rewind the history of the starships from the Star Trek universe to even before the founding of the United Federation of Planets. Today, we're exploring the starships before the Federation. Hello, I'm Captain Jack, and welcome to the Hangar Bay. On this channel, we take a deep dive into the best starships, technology, and more from your favourite sci-fi universes. If you enjoy our videos, please consider hitting that join button to support their development. Remember, for the latest videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you think of these ships in the comments below. Oh, and which class of starship would you prefer to command out of the ones we're talking about today? Get commenting. Oh, and also, what would you name it? Before Starfleet would kick off the NX program, which led to the likes of the NX-01 Enterprise, several starships did serve humanity. The OV-165 was an American space shuttle orbiter operated by NASA and active at least in 2024. This ship belonged to the second generation of space shuttle orbiters intended to be the successor to the Enterprise-type shuttles. It was designed to be a single-staged orbit, or SSTO vehicle. The ship was used for launching commercial and scientific satellites, as well as bringing components to the interplanetary vehicles such as the Shango X-1. Speaking of which, the Shango X-1 was an early 21st century multinational spacecraft assigned to the Europa mission. This is seen in Star Trek Picard Season 2. It was named after the Yoruba people's god of thunder and lightning. According to the January 1st, 2024 edition of the LA Times, it was robust enough to withstand radiation and sensitive enough to gather data needed to investigate Europa's environment. The XC-330 Enterprise was in service sometime prior to 2143. We don't know a lot about this one, but its design has been seen a few times in the Star Trek universe. Rewinding time again, the Phoenix was the first human-built experimental warp ship, designed and built in the 21st century by a ragtag team of scientists and engineers, led by Dr. Zephram Cochrane and Lily Sloan. This was built inside a missile complex in Bozeman, Montana. It came in at over 30 meters long and approximately 20 meters without the rocket boosters. The work on this revolutionary vessel was completed in April 2063, approximately 10 years after the Third World War and its ceasefire. With the successful first warp flight by Dr. Cochrane, it paved the way for humanity's history in the stars. In the years following the successful flight of the Phoenix, the United Earth Probe Agency merged with Starfleet and set up a Warp 5 program. As the name suggested, the scheme was to design and develop a Warp 5 engine. The program evolved into the NX project in the 2140s, as the engines were to be tested in prototype starships. Then came the NX Alpha, and later the Beta and Delta. The warp engine was eventually installed on the prototype starship, the NX Alpha. In 2143, it was ready for its inaugural flight, with several Starfleet commanders competing to pilot and break the Warp 2 barrier. The NX test ships were approximately 20 meters long, looking the same as the Phoenix in its second stage. It was similar in appearance too. The cockpit module of the nose was nearly identical from the outside, rightfully so as it was reused. However, on the inside was vastly different, only featuring seating for 2 crew, and the interfaces were much more sophisticated. Though the cockpit had a pressurized atmosphere, the crew wore a full spacesuit in case of sudden depressurization. Behind the cockpit module, the NX still had a cylindrical body, but had a short and much more advanced nacelles attached to a thicker, articulated wing-like struts. The main difference is the rear end. While the Phoenix used a rocket booster, the NX ship used rocket-like propulsion to launch along a horizontal sled track with an almost vertical ramp at the end. The combined effects of the launch system powered the ship into orbit, and the boosters remained as part of the ship, rather than detaching and falling away. The NX Alpha broke the Warp 2 barrier, reaching a top speed of Warp 2.2 in 2143, 80 years after the Phoenix achieved Warp 1. The ship was destroyed after problems arose with the field stability, and the order to stand down the flight was ignored. The blame for the malfunction was put squarely on the engine, threatening to put the NX program on hold indefinitely. In reality, there was nothing wrong with the engine, instead the ratio of a matter-antimatter intermix. Intent on keeping the project alive, the NX Beta was appropriated without authorization and launched to the same threshold as the Alpha, bringing it to the same speed where the problem of the warp field stabilization arose. Still, this time, the engineers and crew were able to correct the intermix ratios and reach Warp 2.5. The unsanctioned flight kept the project on track. Almost 2 years later, the Warp 3 barrier was broken with the NX Delta, which in turn led to the first Warp 5 engine for the NX-01, launched in 2151. Again, despite the Vulcans' wishes, but humanity deferred to their judgment, which they've been doing for nearly 100 years. The Warp Delta was an escort-type vessel of the United Earth Fleet launched after the NX test ships, but before the NX-01. They were 130 meters long and were complemented with 30 crew members. Its top warp speed was warp 3 and was armed with only plasma cannons and protected with hull polarization. While known as the Warp Delta class, the starship design was also known as the Ganges-class. The name came from the shape of the ship, which was triangular and bore a resemblance to the uppercase Greek letter Delta. When the Delta were launched, they were only capable of warp 2, however advancements in warp technology saw it upgraded with engines that could reach warp 3. The early variant of the Delta had multiple rocket-style engines on the rear of the main body. These were upgraded as propulsion technology improved to more advanced impulse engines. These were much more efficient and enabled the Warp Delta to be more maneuverable with greater speed and precision. The bridge of this ship, in conventional Star Trek style, was on top, but located more forward to the front as opposed to the center of the dorsal hull. There were very few windows along the edge of the vessel, as the rest was covered, at the time, with armor plating, which could be polarized by the application of electromagnetic power, which made the hull several orders of magnitude tougher than its non-polarized state. Its plasma cannon armaments could be discharged in the form of a beam or a burst. The Warp Delta starships were primarily used as the defense fleet of Earth and the outlying colonies, which came in handy when a cloaked Klingon bird of prey swooped in to attack and disable the unsuspecting Enterprise. They were fought off with a small fleet of Delta and Intrepid-class ships, which were luckily still in high readiness following the Xindi probe attack on Earth. The Intrepid-class, not to be confused with the later 24th century Intrepid-class, was a light cruiser in service to the United Earth Starfleet by the 2150s. At a length of 165 meters, the class was fitted with phase cannons and torpedo launchers. Ships of the class seemed to be around before the NX-class and were limited to a warp speed of 3.5, but this would later be upgraded in the years to come. During the Earth-Romulan War, production of the Intrepid-class was increased. This was due to the production of a single NX-class starship taking twice as long to build as two Intrepid-class starships would. A starship class we've only really seen in the Alt-Kelvin timeline is the Freedom-class starship. Starfleet has appeared to operate this class before the launch of the NX-class, given it's only capable of Warp 4. It's not known how many ships of this class were launched, but the USS Fanklin was still in service by 2164, so after the Federation. Perhaps the most well-known class of starship in service before the founding of the United Federation planets was the NX-class. This type of starship served the United Earth Starfleet as the first vessel designed to be constructed with the Warp 5 engine. It allowed humanity to explore far beyond the nearby star systems and venture into the final frontier. The NX-01, Enterprise, was the first ship of the class. With 7 decks, the NX-class measured at 225 meters in length with a standard crew complement of 82 Starfleet personnel. The initial weapons configuration was plasma cannons, with 3 phase cannons and 6 spatial torpedo launchers. A later refit configuration included pulse phase cannons, along with upgraded photonic torpedo launchers. The defenses of the NX-class were in line with other United Earth starships, and included polarized hull plating. By August 2155, the Challenger, NX-03, and Discovery, NX-04, were commissioned. Atlantis, NX-05, and Endeavour, NX-06, also followed. Enterprise NX-01 was launched from the Orbital Dry Dock Facility on April 12, 2151, under the command of Captain Jonathan Archer. The first NX-class was launched 3 weeks ahead of schedule in order to complete a diplomatic mission. Enterprise played a key role in establishing Earth as a key diplomatic player in the interstellar community. Enterprise was a key to the defense of Earth, even though other vessels, such as the Warp Delta and the Intrepid, also made up the defense fleet. During the Xindi crisis, the starship was upgraded and headed out to hunt the elusive species. Eventually, the ship and crew succeeded in their mission, and Earth was saved from destruction. With the outbreak of the Earth-Romulan War, Enterprise continued to be under the command of Jonathan Archer, and saw action in many of the pivotal battles, including the Battle of Charon. Prior to 2161, the NX-class underwent a major refit, which saw the addition of a secondary hull, as well as a larger deflector dish protruding from the front of the drive section. The new drive section, below the saucer, was connected with a small neck, located where the shuttle pod drop bays had been, with the bays relocated to either side of the neck. While the ship was eventually refitted into the Columbia-class configuration, the damage done during the Earth-Romulan War was too severe, and the Enterprise was decommissioned in 2161, around the same time the United Federation of Planets was formed. When the Xindi attacked Earth in 2153, the NX-02, known as Columbia, was still in dry dock and under construction. Eventually, the second NX-class launched in 2154. Compared to the class prototype, Enterprise, Columbia's hull polarization was improved by 12%. Furthermore, the ship possessed ventral and dorsal photonic torpedo launchers, as well as pulse phase cannons. Columbia was officially recorded as missing in action during the Earth-Romulan War. Starfleet would never really find out what happened to the starship until sometime in the 24th century. That's a long story for another day. Before the onset of the Earth-Romulan War, more and more NX-class starships had entered service. However, by 2161, the Enterprise had underwent a 180-day refit. As mentioned, this new refit saw the installation of a secondary hull we mentioned earlier. Some think of it as a new class of starship. For example, it is known as the NX-Refit class, or others refer to it as the Columbia-class configuration. More and more NX-class ships, which had survived the war, were refitted into the new class. New NX-class ships were immediately made into the new Refit class design. With the Earth-Romulan War kicking off and the United Earth needing more combat-ready starships, attention was shifted from production of the NX class to the new Daedalus-class. This design is most noted from breaking away from the typical Starfleet starship designs by having a spherical primary hull. Another ship in the future, the Olympic-class, would be similar to this. No exact launch date of the Daedalus-class is given, though it might be safe to assume it precedes the NX-class. The Daedalus-class starship measured around 105 meters in length, 25 meters wide, and 40 meters tall. Initially, the class was only capable of warp 4.5, but the refit version was later capable of warp 7. By 2159, the vessel was equipped with 5 phaser banks, 2 spatial torpedo launchers, and 2 torpedo launcher banks. Polarized hull plating, like the NX class, protected the Daedalus class from hostile contacts. Now, although you may think of the Daedalus class as new, it is not. By the mid-2150s, it appears the Daedalus class was somewhat outdated compared to the likes of the newer Intrepid-class and the advanced NX-class designs. Still, the Daedalus class was cheaper than the NX class. The Earth-Romulan War gave the Daedalus-class a new lease of life. The starships were upgraded with technology from the NX program and were able to be built at 3 times the rate of an NX-class vessel. Additionally, older ships of the class were able to be refitted with a new standard of technology. As wartime pressure mounted, Starfleet put the refitted Daedalus class into full production. During the conflict with the Romulan Star Empire, the class performed well. The Starship class would go on to serve as the primary exploration starship of the newly formed Federation, following a complete overhaul of Starfleet in 2161. The Starship class served Starfleet right up until 2196, when it was finally decommissioned. During the latter half of the 2150s, Starfleet appears to have designed and launched the Minuteman-class. No exact date is known for the launch of this craft. All we know is that it played a key role in the Earth-Romulan War. By 2159, these vessels were equipped with 2 phase cannons and 5 spatial torpedo launchers. Some would class them as destroyers. Starfleet had the USS Alaska, USS Columbia, USS Liberty, the Minuteman, and the Vermont as part of the Minuteman-class. It's worth noting, the following designs only come from video games and not main Star Trek canon. Another starship to be part of the United Earth fleet only appears in a video game. This is the Yorktown-class. It appears in Star Trek Legacy. As mentioned, this design is not canon to the Star Trek universe, but it's still rather cool. At a length of 400 meters, the class saw action in the Earth-Romulan War, and would continue on to serve the new Federation Starfleet following the formation of the Interstellar Organization in 2161. In 2159, these vessels were equipped with 6 dual-phase banks, 2 phase banks, and 8 photonic torpedo launchers. They were protected by polarized hull plating. However, by 2161, these underwent a similar refit to the Daedalus-class. The refit included enhanced deflector shields, improved phaser banks, and additional photonic torpedo launcher banks. So that is every known starship before the Federation, at least in Starfleet. Do you have a favourite ship from our list? Let us know which starship class you would prefer to take command of in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and consider supporting the Hangar Bay directly by hitting that join button below this video. That's the end of our video today. I've been Captain Jack in the Hangar Bay. Remember, if you're talking about science fiction and starships, we want to hear about it.